All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 December meeting of the Brooklyn Borough Board. We're coming at you live from Brooklyn Borough Hall in the community room and also streaming live via WebEx. A recording of this meeting will be available in accordance with open public meeting law on the Borough President's website and YouTube. I'm Spencer Williams. I'm serving as chair of this body for this evening and work as the director of land use and topography for Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso.
Good evening, Good evening, and I am Carol Ann Church, Director of Community Boards, here under the leadership of our Borough President Antonio Reynoso. And with my colleague Spencer, I welcome you all here for taking the time and, getting here dry. So I will proceed with the roll call. If you are not the principal representative for your entity, please give us your name when I call your organization. And I'll start with the council members this afternoon. District 33, Wrestler. Welcome, Izzy. District 34, Gutierrez. Thank you. District 35, Hudson. District 36, Osei. District 37, Nurse. District 38, Avilaz. District 39, Hanif. District 40, Joseph. District 41, Councilmember Mealy in the house tonight, along with Representative Ayanna Williams. Council District 42, Bax. Thank you. District 43, Zwang. Thank you. District 44, Felder. District 45, Louis. District 46, Narcisse. Actually, they asked to be excused tonight. District 47, Brennan. District 48, Vernikov. District 50, Carr. The bar president is represented here at the head table. I'll go to the community boards. Community board 1. Thank you. Community board 2. Community board 3. Community board 4. Thank you. Community board 5. Community board 6. Community board 7. Community board 8. Community board 9. Community board 10. Community board 11. Community board 12. Community board 13. Community board 14. Community board 15. Community board 16. Community board 17. Community board 18.
We have enough for quorum. So with that, we have established quorum for this evening and can proceed with the meeting agenda as planned. You all have received a copy of today's agenda and minutes prior to this meeting. As well, there's a QR code if anyone would like to pull it up on your phone. There should be cards at each of the tables if you need access to that. We have one main item presentation on the agenda for this evening, but would love to proceed with an approval of this meeting's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by members Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The agenda is approved. We will now move on to the approval of the minutes from our November 6, 2025 meeting of the Borough Board. Is there any discussion on the minutes from last meeting? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting? Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the November 6 minutes from the Brooklyn Borough Board, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We will now move on to Borough Hall and board member updates, beginning with any members of the board who would like to provide an update. As a reminder, you can turn your name card up if you would like to be called upon, and someone will bring you a microphone so that you can be heard on the webcast as well as in the room. Nobody has anything at the end of the year. Everybody's just like, get us to 2026 and then we'll talk. Okay, take your time. Do you want it to?
Yeah, I'll go. Well, first off, everybody, I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving holiday, that you were able to connect with friends and family. And if your choice was just to veg out on the sofa, then you did that and enjoyed it well. So just a couple of updates from Borough Hall. Last week, Borough President Reynoso, along with Council Member Hudson and Nurse, introduced a bill 1482, which is legislation that will require HPD and landlords to provide financial assistance to qualifying low-income tenants who are displaced by housing demolition, substantial rehab to their home, change of use, or removal of rental income restrictions. And this bill was, don't want to say the genesis, but the concept of this is also included in our 2025 plan. Once again, community board applications are live. Please remind your members, if their term is expiring, they should have received an email from Borough Hall. That means that they need to apply in order to be considered for reappointment. An appointment is maximum 2 years. So if you don't reapply, you don't have a chance to be reappointed. We're having application workshops across the borough. We have one this week at Homecrest. We have one next week in Community District 4 with Riceboro at Hope Senior Center. Please help us get the word out. If you would like us to do a workshop in your neighborhood, please reach out. We're looking to partner to ensure that we have a diverse applicant pool, because a diverse applicant pool gives us diverse membership. Upcoming, so this year, the Brooklyn Public Library is doing a program called People Making Power, and our borough president is going to be on one of the panels on December 10th with demographer Joseph Salvo, political scientist John Mollenkoff, and moderator Katie Honan. They're going to be discussing Brooklyn's evolving population and progressive identity. So those are the things that are happening out here at Borough Hall for the next couple of weeks. And we will be sending this information to your boards, and anything additional, we'll make sure that you receive that too via email. Thank you. Oh, you need the mic.
Oh, morning.
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of updates from District 41. As of tomorrow, we will have veterans in our office the first Wednesday of every month from 9 to 3 at our district office, which is located at 400 Rockaway Avenue between Pick and East New York Avenue. You can call for an appointment. That's 718-953-3097. every Friday until the end of the year tentatively. We still have boots on the ground every Friday at Mount Ararat Older Adult Center, which is at 1630 St. Mark's Avenue, and that's from 2:30 to 3:30 every Friday. As well, we're having our monthly Community Advisory Board meeting on Saturday, December 20th, again at our district office, which is 400 Rockaway Avenue, and that meeting is from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So please come and join us. Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sorry. And hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Councilmember Darlene Mealy. Starting January, about the second week in January, we will have free tax preparers. So please get that word out. We're trying to find room. We have every Monday 2 immigration lawyers. Every Tuesday we have a free housing lawyer. Wednesday we have specialists with Housing Connect. And now, is that Thursday? Every first Wednesday, we have in veteran services, and now we will be having free taxes also. So please look out for that. I just got to find a day now that they could come in and some chairs. Thank you so much, everyone. And hope everyone have a blessed Christmas and New Year. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Council Member. We will now go to Member Cesar.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Chairperson Shiva, for reminding me of the rules as well. 2 things. Could you remind me again, Carol Ann Church, what the intro number is of the bill that you had mentioned in the board update? All right, 1482. Thank you. So then the next question I have is, and maybe the bill answers this, but my next question is, does the bill answer where the funding will come from? And number 2, would this also include NYCHA? And the reason I bring this up is because there's been articles for the past few months regarding what's happening at like the Elliott houses in Chelsea and like the elders that are being affected. And so I'm wondering if this would also mean people in NYCHA housing who are faces those similar situations would have access to this funding if this bill goes all the way through the final conclusion or not. That's it.
So there are 2 pieces of this. The bill as it has been introduced takes funding from 2 sources. Okay. So part of the funding would come from the city and part of the funding would come from the actual landlord as well. And so part of the thinking behind that is, growth is happening in the city. Things are coming out of regulation time to time. And so the city, has been growing, wants to continue to grow. There are times in which landlords want to do something with their property. And so that sort of shared responsibility then means when something comes out of regulation or there's substantial rehab that's happening, that those parties would contribute to that fund to then go to that tenant to support relocation assistance, with the idea of them being able to more likely stay in the neighborhood that they want to be and to increase their amount of housing choice. The amount of that is all would be subject to agency rulemaking with HBD. But in terms of what it protects, in terms of what income you might need to make or be in to qualify for that, and then sort of what events happen are spelled out in the bill in greater detail, and there'll be a hearing on that at some point in the future as well. And then in terms of its application to NYCHA, I will have to get back to you on the details of the bill, just because some of those are under different rulemaking in terms of their federal rule status. But certainly for those folks that were using Section 8 housing, if any of their housing was subject to this, because that is typically a sort of market rate transaction, those folks would be covered under that legislation.
All right, cool. So thank you for that. And then, yeah, I'll basically follow up with you for additional information. But thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes. And part of that legislation comes out of discussions around the Atlantic Avenue mixed use plan. That was a program that was referenced as a potential thing for New York to consider in response to the community feedback that we heard from Community Boards 3 and Community Board 8, are really around their concern around displacement resulting from that rezoning, and wanting to have a program to better stabilize tenants in the neighborhood that might be subject to change and rising rents. Are there any? Yes, Member Baptiste.
Thank you very much. For the record, for Baptiste, Chair CB9, I just wanted to know if we can get a follow-up. Is there updated data with regards to attendance for the Borough Board meetings? I know that we had discussed it a month or two ago. I'm not sure if the updates were made, and if it's possible to get a report generated, just so that way we can have accountability for all the constituencies.
We update the website after the minutes is approved, so the last one on there should be October.
Yes, Community Board 3, Member Booseroth.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So it's December, and Board 3 meets on the first Monday, so we met yesterday. Just wanted to share that we had our biannual elections last night, and unfortunately, you guys are stuck with me for another 2 years. So I'll be here for 24 more months.
Congratulations. We count ourselves very lucky. Are there any additional updates from the body? Seeing none, we will move on to unfinished business. We have no items on this agenda, even though there have been a number of topics that have been tabled by this body. We were waiting, getting the right people in the room to have those conversations. The one that was referenced last month was the changes that are reflected in the charter changes around what to make of those 4 proposals that were passed. There was a lot of discussion amongst the board on what really wanting to understand what those changes might mean. We want to give that a little bit more time as the administration is changing, and we get sort of like real clarity on how some of those things will be operationalized before we can bring that back to this group. But want to note that we have heard the interest in having that conversation and will schedule it for a future meeting. At this point, I'm curious if as we look forward to next year, are there any topics of note that folks would like to flag for us to think about putting on the agenda for upcoming meetings or themes that might be of important note? So I will pause here, and if folks have any of those topics, please raise your placard and we will take a moment just to hear any topics of interest, if any. You can always email us or reach out to us as well, but wanted to make space. Councilmember?
Well, I just hope that everyone pay attention. City Council is putting out a legislation about COPA. Anyone heard of it? First right to buy. It's like if someone's losing their home, they're asking that a CBO will have the first right to buy private homes. So please keep an eye on that. Talk about it. I'm mad about it, but when we have a discussion and when it really comes to City Council, that's when one of my colleagues put it out before. It just popped up again now. So please pay attention to it. COPA. Thank you.
Thank you for the note. Okay. I'm gonna wait a beat. I'm sure by the end of the meeting, you're gonna go, Sensei, I have so many things that I want to talk about. But keep thinking about it. Conversation doesn't end here. but I will continue to come back to you in future meetings with this request as well. So as things do come up, don't hesitate to reach out to us. If we can get folks in here to talk to you all about things that matter, we will, and want to hear from you on that respect as well. With that, we will now move on to any communications and reports from subcommittees. Does any subcommittee chair have a report for this evening?
So I'll take the roulette. As convener of the Open Meetings Law Committee, the committee has not yet held its first meeting, so they have not elected a chairperson. That meeting will happen next week. And so we'll have a report at our January meeting. Thank you.
Are there any other reports? Okay. We look forward to some more reports in the new year on items that are coming up. Okay. With that, we will now welcome to the floor for a presentation a group of folks on developing affordable housing under 202. We have Gregory Anderson, President and CEO, Paul Kruss, Jeffrey Chu from Bridge Street Development Corporations, Mark Benoit, and Maya Carmen from Ghetto and Demille, and Kendall Christensen from Congregational Home Legacy Fund. Please come up to the desk and share your presentation. Thanks for joining us at Borough Board.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gregory Anderson, and I serve as President and CEO of Bridge Street Development Corporation, based in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. We provide a wide range of services throughout central Brooklyn. I really want to thank you for providing us the time and the opportunity to tell you about the 202 Preservation Program. We have a formal presentation that with me is Jeff Chu. We'll go through it fairly quickly, and we will have time for questions. But I want to just give you the Cliff Notes version before we go through the detailed charts. So as with NYCHA, Mitchell-Lama, and Section 8 housing developments, all developments created for low-income seniors through the federal HUD Section 202 program are facing financial, physical, and operational challenges. Bridge Street Development has launched the 202 Preservation Project to ensure 202s get critical funding and support to preserve this important resource into the future. Bridge Street is seeking to educate owners of 202s about government funding, as well as the technical assistance and planning assistance that would allow them to access needed resources. This includes connecting owners with modes of financing. The 202 Preservation Project is also building an advocacy coalition alongside organizations like Live On New York to promote policies that make it easier for 202s to access help. Your assistance in spreading the word about important 202 resources that are available for senior housing building owners would be very much appreciated. At the conclusion of our presentation, we will be passing around sheets that identify which 202s are within your community boards. And we will be asking for your help in reaching out and connecting with those owners of those 202s. So with that, we're going to run through the presentation and feel free to stop us at any point with questions. Okay. So, let's just go to slide 1. So I've already talked about Bridge Street, so I won't give you the full commercial here. We've just celebrated our 30th year. We have a very holistic approach to community development. We serve our youth, our seniors, and our small businesses. With that, I'll turn it to Jeff to talk about 202s more broadly. And we're going to go back and forth, so
You hear me now? Oop. Okay, you can hear me. I can hear me.
we can hear you now.
All right. So the HUD 202 program was started by the federal government back in 1959. So that's 66 years of building low-income senior housing in this country. There are 246 HUD 202 properties in New York City with about 26,710 apartments. And in Brooklyn, there has the largest number of HUD 202 buildings with 83 properties and 8,800 apartments. A lot of these properties are owned by nonprofits, local community and faith-based organizations, and a lot of them have only done one of these properties. And they've been owners for a while, and so we're trying to get in touch with them and help them preserve these properties.
So as Jeff mentioned, there are 246 202s throughout New York City, but because there's no place like home, our focus is first and foremost in Brooklyn, where there are 83 202s. But this is about more than just the buildings. This is really an initiative that focuses on our seniors and making sure that they have a home that is preserved, that continues to be low income, and that allows them to age in dignity, with dignity and grace where they live.
So there are also challenges with the buildings and properties themselves. One of them is that most of these buildings are financed using Section 8 or PRAC contracts, the rental assistance contracts from HUD. And we all know what's going on with HUD in Washington. So this is something that we're really keen on solving. A lot of the properties are 40 years or older. 24 of them in Brooklyn are 40 years old. And then a lot of properties have been analyzed to be at risk by HUD. And at risk means there are physical issues with the buildings, there are financial problems, things that we are really working to address.
So the 202 Preservation Project, first and foremost, is about enhancing healthy living and the ability of residents to age in place. One of the important things to note is that the waiting list currently for 202s in New York is over 200,000. There's a 5-year waiting list. We know that the aging population in New York has grown dramatically. So this is really an effort to make sure our seniors continue to have a place to live. We're looking to address the capital needs to provide energy efficiency. But more importantly, we're looking to build a coalition so that this is not just about individual buildings and individual owners. This is bringing groups together to advance this work for our seniors.
So we've done a lot of research over the last year, talked to a lot of industry stakeholders. We put together a toolkit to help property owners do the preservation work for their properties. So we can give them a property assessment, a funding and financial assessment. We can give technical assistance. And then the big thing and why we're here today is about building coalitions for advocacy. We really need to spotlight the problem of housing for low-income seniors in the city and in Brooklyn in particular. So we're asking everyone is to go out and start talking about this. Talk to their residents, talk to their constituents, find out what the issues are, and then let's come together and act as one with one voice and speak and solve these problems.
And so the issues and the solutions that we are looking to bring go beyond the brick and mortars. There are existing models for preserving this housing, and we've done the research and we understand and know those well. But what we're also looking to do is to build new models and to bring new resources to this initiative. The other thing we're looking to do is to take this as a portfolio approach. It's difficult to do this one building at a time. So if we can get a coalition coming together of owners, of developers, all looking to advance this work together, we can bring in more resources and get more work done sooner. And we're looking to bring in new funding sources at both the local, federal, philanthropic, corporate, and state to really make sure that this initiative has the resources needed to make a difference.
So kind of to recap, we've done a lot of analysis and we're going to address the building problems, physical, operational, financing, and with the goal of building healthy homes. We've got local law 97 and we want to decarbonize the buildings. That's really great for seniors in a city where asthma rates are really high. Getting rid of fossil fuel burning furnaces and hot water heaters in the building is really, really important. We also want to solve the financial barriers to preserving these properties. It's really expensive to do development work and especially rehab work. A lot of these buildings have been neglected for years and have all kinds of problems that are hiding behind the walls. So that's why it's important to talk to everyone, talk to the seniors. A lot of them, we went and did a windshield tour a while back, and seniors would approach us and, want to talk to us because their building owners aren't listening to them. So, we need to figure out what these issues are and address them.
So over the course of the last year and a half, let's go back to the
yeah.
advisory committee.
Yep.
We've gathered a number of experts, both on the building and development side, and the finance side, the legal side, governmental side. This initiative has been well received across the board. We've met with many of our city council members. Madam Mealy, you're next. And just really to make sure that everyone understands the need for this work. We've met with HPD. We've met with HUD. We're going to be meeting with HUD 2.0 soon. We've met with the state. Everyone understands that this work needs to be done, but it's only by coming together that it can be done effectively and efficiently. So we're here to introduce this to you. We're having another meeting here in Borough Hall on December 16th, where we will be inviting many of the owners. We would love for as many of you to be here and your respective council members to join us as we introduce this to many of the owners. But more immediately, we will be handing out just really a cover letter that explains our ask and a list of the 202s within each of your community boards. If you know of anyone there, it has our contact number and email. It has my phone number, so you can call me directly. Again, we just want to thank you. Jeff and I can answer questions, and we have our other colleagues here to answer any questions you may have. Really, thank you for your time and your attention.
All right, we will now open up for questions, and we've got a question here on the left side for Member Sandoval. Hold on, we're getting a mic coming to you. Moments.
I'm Milagro Sandoval, Community Board 4. You have 83 properties in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Thank you. You're saying
Thank you.
83 properties in Brooklyn?
Brooklyn alone.
In Brooklyn alone. And do you have a breakdown in what
We do.
community?
Yeah, that's actually public information from HUD. So we downloaded it and then put it into a file and analyzed it. And
So these are all HUD properties.
Yes.
So they're properties within the HUD 202 program. That's how they were financed. That's how they're funded. The properties are owned by individual housing development financing corps. So they're individual owners, but they all come under the HUD umbrella.
I see.
So they would have
Because
under.
I'm just thinking of buildings that I've organized myself as the director of organizing at Communities Resist. I know we had organized some buildings on Howard, and they were under HUD, and they were falling apart. They're, I mean, really bad conditions.
So we will get you your list and we will reach out to you when we're ready to do some more organizing.
Okay, great, thank you.
Community Board 3.
Thanks for the presentation. I just have a few questions around a couple of different issues. First, for the it's about 8,500 units that you said were in Brooklyn. Do you know how many tenants that represents? Is it like?
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have that number with
That's
me,
fine.
but it is more than the number of apartments.
Yep. And then a question around some of the challenges that the buildings are facing. So I'm imagining that some of them are in disrepair. Are any of the buildings or any number of the buildings, because of their state of disrepair, are units not available? And is that a reason that the wait list is also 5 years?
That's
You
yeah, I can come back.
Flag
But
that
I
question.
would say yes. Looking through the HPD's building records, when you see buildings with, numerous violations, and you can be pretty confident that there are vacancies due to that, but I don't have the numbers.
And related to that, I'm wondering, as part of this process, and your toolkit and assessment process, are you going to recommend that some of the ownership shifts to other groups that can better manage the properties?
So what we're looking to do is to provide the assessment and to provide each owner with the information they need to decide what's in their best interest. Now, in that,
Okay.
we want to be prepared. There are going to be some who will say, we need your help. We want to bring this building, the improvements that are needed. There are going to be some who will say, get me out of this. And we are prepared to address that, whether that's a transfer of ownership, an acquisition. But there are going to be some groups, and we've met with some, who have most of the leadership that was there 20, 30 years ago when these buildings were first built are no longer there. So they've lost touch with the buildings, but they haven't lost touch with their mission. And so some of them are saying, we need new ownership, but we still want to be involved.
Got it.
And so we're prepared to meet all of the ownership wherever they're at. And there's some who say, we don't need your help, we got this. And we'll say, do it under this umbrella because we can bring the resources to help you do what you want to get done.
And the last question I have is related to, I know you've done a year of research around this, but do you have an estimate of what the capital investment that's needed across Brooklyn and or the whole city?
May we have a drum roll, please?
Yeah, they're really, really big numbers. We're based on the available funding and what we think it's going to cost to renovate the average building. We're doing like ballpark numbers that we're looking at a funding shortfall of $2 to $5 million a building. So it's in the hundreds of millions across the entire city. But not all of these are going to be done at one time, right? So they're going to be done phased in over the years. So it's a little more manageable when you look at it on a year-by-year basis.
So roughly like $5 to $8 million, $100 million. Yeah. Okay.
And we'll come to Member Espinal next at Community Board 1.
Good evening. Thank you for the presentation. I'm Rosemary Espinal, representing Community Board 1. And I just wanted to thank you for this presentation. I had no idea about this program. And just to commend the work that you're doing. And it's very concerning to me, the challenges, especially the waiting list of 5 years and the 200,000 plus people on the waiting list. My question was, how is your fundraising? Is that something that maybe exploring, doing major fundraising to help? I did see that here in your presentation that you do some sort of philanthropy, you link up with people that do philanthropy or organizations. Maybe that could help. This is really concerning to me because I think that as a municipality, as a city, we need to care for our seniors. And, we can't leave them behind. We all have people that are aging, our parents, aunts, uncles, and, so a lot of them are low income and we must help them as a city. Also, second part of the question is, how about the elected officials? What's the support that you have received from them?
So I'll start with and thank you for elevating the importance of fundraising and financing for this initiative, because as Jeff mentioned, there's a big number that's going to be needed for the brick and mortar repairs and upgrades. But it's also a big number that's needed to do the research, to begin to do the assessments. And we are just fortunate and grateful that we've received tremendous support. I will mention Kendall Christensen here from the Congregational Home Legacy Fund. Kendall and I serve on the board of the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and I gave him an idea. He took the idea and turned it to a vision. And through their funding, we've been able to do a lot of the initial work to get us to this point. This program has been well received by elected officials. Bridge Street has received city council funding through the Speaker's initiative for the current fiscal year FY26. We'll be coming back for more. We are looking at multiple funding sources. We've just received over the past month 2-year funding from both New York Community Trust and the Robin Hood Foundation. And we're going with banks and other funding sources because really the cost to keep this initiative moving will be substantial. But this program has been well received. We've met with state officials, local officials, and everyone is pledging to support this. But we'll be back to ask for your help in convincing them.
Good. Thank you.
All right, we'll continue around the table and move to Member Baptiste.
Thank you very much for the presentation this evening. So one of the things that I'm definitely thankful to my colleague from CB1 for talking about the importance of this program. We all have family, friends, and some of us staring at the barrel ourselves. But one of the questions I did have is definitely, I think that the spirit of this is affordability for seniors. And typically we see when we have developments and these investments of these types, I saw MCIs in there, and I know that typically those become costs that are translated to the renters. Are we looking at potential increases in terms of how much seniors will have to pay, or if I could better understand, well, how is this funded to make sure that the aim of this supportive housing for seniors that is affordable is maintained?
Yeah, so as a rule, publicly funded housing, when residents are asked to pay rent, the rent is set at 30% of their income. So that's not going to change. I would like it to be lower because, frankly, for people that really don't make very much money, even 30% is too high. But that's a topic for another time. But yes, we really do not want to increase their cost, and that's something we're not going to do.
Okay. But I guess by regulation and statute, it's static, that 30%. Thank you very much for that. The other piece of that is just, I'm not sure if you have a sense already in terms of, have you identified properties that are so dilapidated that rehabilitation is not possible?
Um, I don't think, you know, when you drive around, there's some buildings that look like they're in disrepair. But until you actually go and visit and speak with the building staff, you don't really know. But I would say that I don't expect, so for the HUD 202 program, you know, they have to do annual inspections and reports. And so when they fall below a certain grade, they have to fix it. And they don't have much time to do that. Yeah.
Just as a follow-up to that, for many of these properties, there may be adjacent space, whether it's a parking lot or for some of the owners, particularly some of the faith-based owners, they may have other properties that may provide for new construction. So while our primary focus is on preservation, we are looking where there may be opportunities to build new affordable senior housing.
And last question. So as part of this process, do you anticipate that there might be seniors who are temporarily displaced? And are plans already made in terms of, you know, what will happen with that?
Yeah, that really depends on the level of renovations to the building, inside the apartment, if major systems need to be replaced. We are working with architects and general contractors who are very well versed in temporary relocation. We try not to do that nobody likes to do that. You know, you work on hospitality suites and things that, you know, the tenants are out, they're just out for a few hours during the day, and then you repair things so they can go back till tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Now moving down the table, CB 17.
Yes, so to echo what everyone else has said here, thank you so much for this presentation. This is very insightful and important work too. I also didn't know about the HUD Section 202. So to piggyback off of a bunch of questions that were asked here, to piggyback off of Chairperson Baptiste's question regarding the temporary relocation. And so the funding that's being asked for, does that mean that there's also set aside to include the cost of having to move people and to also give them enough money for them to pay whatever utilities and things they have in the event that whatever work is being done in that facility does require a temporary relocation of some kind? And then the second question too, regarding the, I guess the status of the properties, right? And this may be a question that's a tandem for you, Spencer, as well, just because where my head was going with Chairperson's Baptiste's question was, if upon inspection, like you said, a building does need to be rehabilitated per the 202 guidelines, but if the owner says, you know what, screw this, I'd make more money transferring this to someone else who can knock it down, and per city of yes, I can make more money building something as of right. My question to you, Spencer, would be then, does City of Yes account for some sort of mechanism where who would it be who would be talking with Bridge Street and those other people if it comes to that situation? So those are my questions.
Let me just say that these buildings are all constructed through the HUD 202 program,
Okay.
and there is a long-term regulatory agreement that would really prevent that from happening.
So in a sense so in essence, if I understand correctly, the HUD 202 would supersede New York City's City of Yes zoning regulations in terms of this class of properties with that thought exercise?
I don't know if I understand.
So I think here, all of these programs, all of these buildings that are under this program have received some financing and support to be in a HUD regulatory agreement. And so let's say I would have built a property in 1962, and then in some cases for the 202 program, like a 30-year agreement of like, we will keep all of these units within this program at a level of performance in terms of the annual inspection and like being in a state of good repair, all of those things. And so then at the end of that regulatory agreement, what we see oftentimes, as was mentioned in the presentation earlier, that oftentimes these are community development corporations, faith-based institutions. What we have seen is that at the end of that initial regulatory agreement, they're re-upping these buildings and they're staying within the program.
Okay.
And so even though they're staying within the program, they still have sort of sizable backlogs of repair costs, as well as just like life cycle costs that happen with the building. You need new elevators, you need a new roof. And those sort of secondary impacts, particularly when it comes to an aging population, can be really substantial in terms of like your ability to get to a doctor's appointment, your ability to get sort of like basic needs met. And so in that case, right, one of the ways that this would interact is if there was someone who was participating in this program whose then a regulatory agreement was ending. So that new introduction legislation would then kick in if that was passed and say, those are units that are going out of regulation. Therefore, they no longer have this requirement for the 30% of the income. There's no longer sort of like HUD responsibility on that project. Those units would sort of ostensibly otherwise be open to the free market. Under that new legislation that has been proposed, those folks, because they are below a certain income threshold, would then be eligible for a relocation assistance that would be paid for by both the building owner and the city to then find a new unit. So,
got it. Okay, so I understand that. So thank you for that. And then, so thank you for that clarity. And then for the second question too, like, so actually my first question, sorry, was just asking about for the funding that's that you guys are asking for, right? Does that funding account for basically relocation costs if people do need to be relocated, and also additional costs for these folks to take care of the utilities and the things they need to in the event that they are relocated to their temporary places as well?
Yeah, I think I know definitely we take into account a relocation budget. Money for utility expenses while they're out, I don't know. You know, we could probably fold it into a relocation budget. It really is up to negotiations at the time.
No
And I would
problem. Thank you.
also just offer that I think, just judging from other preservation programs and strategies, lots of providers like these folks are really trying to minimize that. And so, as an example, if there are a certain number of vacant units in a building, there are ways to do sort of these investments sort of floor by floor. So you are sort of relocating people, but ideally within the same building. And so then you're sort of saying, we're going to do all of the units on the 6th floor, move people into those new units, open up units on the 5th floor, like, and just keep sort of cycling through. There are really a lot of strategies depending on building to building to minimize disruptions for tenants here. And I would say there's a pretty wide range of performance across the portfolio. I think I have a question for all of the folks in this room, of just a resource question. How many of you have ever used the Furman Center's core data tool?
I haven't. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to only see one hand, it's a really valuable tool, particularly for all of your boards. I think so. We should do a little skills share at a future board meeting to sort of walk through that, or like think about that as part of one of our trainings that we do. Oh, do you want to say? Sorry about that.
At some point in the new year, we're going to be doing a data training. So the hope is that we'll be able to show multiple data tools that will assist anybody, but particularly community board members, how to find information on all types of New York City statistics, whether it's health, whether it's population, businesses, everything, housing. Yeah. So
But
that's in the
particularly
works.
for housing, the Furman Tools core data, particularly for this program, you can get building by building information. You can get their most up-to-date REACT score, which is now an Inspire score, which is just their annual inspection score.
Yep.
And so like out of 100, you'll see things that are like scoring pretty well in the 90s, and you'll see things that are in the 40s and 50s because they have lead paint or non-functioning sort of like core things that are wrong with the unit.
Got you.
Just want to turn the mic to Paul Kress, who's the VP of Real Estate and Social Impact Projects at Bridge Street.
I just wanted to add a few things to your question. One of the things is whenever you have a federally funded housing product, it has to get the Attorney General's approval. And usually it's restricted in terms of how those funds can be sold.
Okay.
And so that's one control that's in place also to regulate people coming in and buying properties out and then converting them into market rate housing,
Okay.
which has happened in the past. And I think that's why this particular stipulation was put in place to help regulate that.
Okay.
The other thing I think, what I heard here was exactly correct. I mean, you ought to get a demographic of your community board and kind of what is the housing products in your community and what is the changing demographics of the population in your community board so that you can kind of begin to see where are the pockets of need. One of the things that was brought to our attention recently was that right now we have 4 generations of seniors from 62 and older because people are living longer, which means that the housing need for seniors is going to get tremendously increased.
Yeah.
And so we have to think about that. And a lot of the development that's going on in our communities now, you see it. It's a market rate development. People are building these new buildings and high rises, but people can't afford them.
Yeah.
And so the question is, who's building for the people who are basically on fixed incomes? No one. Really, literally no one. And without the HUD 202 program, there really is not a supportive housing product that really is tailored to the needs of seniors. And that's why we think this is just such an incredibly important thing to do in our community. Let's preserve this asset. Let's kind of do what is the right thing for the seniors in our community and see what we can do to even expand it. I mean, that's what we're about here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Really do.
And just one last thing in relation to City of Yes. And part of our advocacy efforts, we know that there are funds and focus for nature, for Mitchell-Lama. And what we want to do is to elevate 202s so that within the City of Yes, that this is a priority need and viewed as a priority for the city.
Got you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Mark Benoit from Ghetto and Demille. Real quick, your question brought us all out. So in terms of relocation, renovation in place, that kind of thing, on our advisory committee, we purposely thought of that. And we have 2 individuals. One represents Monadnock Construction. They built most of the 202s in Brooklyn. I think over 80% of them. So they're experts in that field. And we have a person that specializes just in relocation and renovations in place. So this sort of knowledge base adds to our general stew of knowledge. And so thank you for your question.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
One of the things that you can help us with, we're looking to do a pilot program. It wasn't brought up here in the presentation, but we're looking to identify the first 5 to 10 properties and talk to the owners. We will work with them and provide the upfront pre-development financing to get them through that feasibility phase so that they can begin to determine what is the best direction that they can take with the preservation of their property. So if you know of any owners, just let them know this, have them contact us, and we'd be happy to sit down and see how we might be able to get them involved. Okay?
Wonderful. Are there any additional questions? 1, 2 more questions. Let's come here first, and then we'll come around.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I like the idea of preservation, sorry. I would just like to add that, the potential displacement of a vulnerable population is concerning, and it should be better planned out in case, it needs to be done. So that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Again, Milagro Sandoval, Community Board 4. 10 buildings on your list. You're asking to contact these folks, right? Have you guys actually contacted these folks? first and foremost.
So we have sent out a mailing, an email to, so the database and the data that's available, it's actually very hard to learn who the real owners of some of these buildings are. We have the names of the HDFCs, but then there's not often up-to-date contact information on how to reach them.
But you've done such a comprehensive your comprehensive research on finding and identifying these 8,000 plus buildings.
Yes.
I'm just taken back that you haven't actually like knocked on these guys' doors and say, hey, this is what we intend to do. And we want to help this building instead of.
And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
And certainly as an organizer, you know, we can come from afar. If these are in your district, they're people you know, and they know you. The way for us to get to know them is for us to get to know you, to help you understand the importance and need of this, and have you be an advocate for this initiative. Because we've knocked on some doors. Many of these owners are actually somewhat removed from their properties. And so, yeah, if you're taken aback, so will
So
we.
were we.
And so that's why we're here, because we know it's with everything, it's about relationships. These are relationships that you have. We want to develop a relationship with you so that you can go from a feeling of trust to reach out to the people you know and say, I think you should look at this.
And I would also just offer to that point, I think, we have a gap in our city of tenant organizing sometimes, building to building. And so like for these sort of prioritizing, particularly those that have the lowest inspection scores or the most active number of building violations, those types of things, to target additional organizing activity there is needed, obviously. Yes.
I've been organizing for a while. And when you look at violations and you see there's 30 or 40 apartments, and you see only 2 violations, you know something is wrong, right?
Yeah.
Some people are not reaching out. They're not calling 311. They're not reporting what's going on. Meanwhile, there's,
They're not talking to their neighbors.
Disastrous.
Sometimes.
So it's about educating these folks behind these doors and building these relationships linguistically as well, right? And knocking on their doors and this is what's going on and this is how we can help you guys. I mean, I can organize these seniors and have them in front of Antonio's, door in 3 days.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does also raise a question of because these are sort of scattered sites across the borough, how do they begin to come together as tenants that are sort of have all different ownerships? I think some of that sort of like each building has its own owner. You don't see the sort of the trends that they're talking about building to building across the entirety of the portfolio. And so oftentimes what I've seen in communities, it's like, oh, wait, we all have the same ownership group. You in Canarsie and you in Bed-Stuy and you in Sunset Park, you all have the same owners. So we need to actually find what's in common. So I think the idea of these folks focusing on the 202 program in particular, there's certainly like, how do we reach ownership and get the buildings like up to snuff? I think there's an equivalent sort of community infrastructure question around how do tenants who are experiencing gaps in their housing services or gaps in their housing quality, how do we get tenants in 202 buildings to know that there are folks like these folks that are wanting to come in and do something about it, to work proactively with ownership and management to do that. I think there's both and, I think is what I've heard.
So I just want to say that one of the issues often is that the residents in the buildings think they know who the owner is, and they talk to the building staff and the property manager, and then things get nowhere. It's because they're not actually talking to the owners. And so that's one of the problems we're finding, is not being able to actually get to the owners.
Just two clarifying questions. First, is there uniform age eligibility across these units?
It's 62 and older.
Okay. And the other is, do you have a ballpark of the percentage of units, senior housing units that are within this program across the city?
It's a good question. No, I don't.
So you know if it's like a large number, because I know that because I know Bridge Street has other senior housing that's not on this list. So
Right, the city has a Sarah program, and there are a lot of senior buildings there.
Okay.
But I don't have the
question.
data. That's a good question.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
We'll get that answer.
Thank you.
You need a mic?
With the, some of the 202 programs have been refinanced with tax credits. Tax credits also have some tiers of affordability, and usually they're not as low as what you find with the 202 program. 202 is 30% of your income, period. Okay. Whereas in a tax credit deal, you can have people at 50% of the area median income, 60% of the area median income, et cetera. So what we see is the 202 program is unlike any of the other senior housing products out there in the city right now. And that's why it's so important to preserve this asset for the community.
Thank you. I think that, responding to her comment, I'm sorry, your name, you're from Community Board 4. I think it's a valid thing, what they're doing. They're asking for our help. And the way I see it is the way that we can help is taking this information back to our community board and in discussing them on committee meetings. And, before you go to the borough president in 3 days, you need to also, contact your local elected officials, city council members, assembly members for your district, and, send letters in the committee meetings for, Human Services Committee. I represent the Public Safety and Human Services Committee, Community Board 1. I'm going to bring this information back, and we're going to have a meeting discussing this issue and maybe coming up with a recommendation for our local elected officials to support this organization. Write a letter asking them to allocate more funding and to find ways to fundraise, to allocate more city money to these organizations. That's how I see it. So it's a valid thing what they're doing, telling us they need our help too. They're doing everything they can, and I think it's a valid thing to do.
I think you got it constructed it wrong in your head. I'm not questioning the validity of them. I'm asking about these 10 buildings and going to these folks. And I asked them specifically if they went to any of these, and they said no. So it's not about questioning their validity, right? It's about going to these buildings and talking to the seniors to find out what actually is going on, which I do every day, all day, because that's what I do in my employment is just a legal aid organization representing tenants and creating tenant associations. I sit also on Community Board 4. So it's about going to these buildings to find out what's going on, right? Getting the information that they're speaking about. And if I have to organize a bunch of seniors to come and speak, I'll do that without a problem. So it's not about questioning them.
We'd love to do that with you. We would love to sit with you. I'd be happy to sit with you.
Of course.
And that way
But
we
it's
can,
not questioning the
Yeah.
validity, so I think.
no, I understand
She must have
100%.
gotten it a little bit.
No, it's fine, and thank you for your comments, because we're all in this together, and we do have a 5-year waiting list. It's well over 200,000 seniors trying to get into these buildings. So the quicker we meet and discuss and add your thoughts and your recommendations to our strategy, the better it'll be. Thank you.
And we would be happy to meet with your respective community boards or committees, whatever we can do to assist you, just let us know.
But just to make another sort of point on this, having read all of your community district needs assessments for folks in the room, right? To the degree that you can be specific as well when you're saying there's a housing need and to call out particularly senior housing or to call out a particularly low income housing, it's great when we see that affordability is a priority, but be able to go to this next level and say, we have a bunch of units that are serving a population in our district that need to be rehabilitated, that's a priority. That to the degree that you can continue to add specificity about your district, that I think is a really important opportunity here to then say of 10 buildings. So if you have 10 buildings in 4 of the 80 that are in Brooklyn, you got a concentration, right? So to see how long the list is for you, as opposed to some other folks, that tells me something about who and where are using this program. And certainly there are folks in the room who don't have any 202 buildings in their district, probably.
I think there's at least one in every community.
Okay. Right. Okay. That's helpful. Well, come over here.
3 of us got 30.
Appreciate the thoroughness of this conversation. Hopefully this doesn't require a very long answer, but I am curious because this is a HUD-funded program. Are you predicting some of the interruption in funding streams like this administration has done with Section 8 and Section 9?
Yeah.
Are you foreseeing this?
Well, so my understanding of what's happened in Washington is that they are moving responsibility for the Section 8 program from the federal government to the states. My read of the budget is that it's kind of flat funded, and that there will not be any new vouchers being issued, and that the rent increases needed to do a lot of these renovations. And these are rent increases that the Section 8 program would pay for so that we can raise debt to pay for these renovations, that those might be in jeopardy. And so we're waiting to talk to the people in HUD 2.0 to figure out how this is going to work. And that's why it's really important that we all get together and figure out how we can move this forward without, we need to be all on one page.
And interestingly enough, in the midst of all the budget and proposals that were put out, one of the priorities that were clearly listed was senior housing, affordable senior housing.
Right.
All right. Any additional questions for our panelist? One more comment. Yes, please.
I do have the list for all the community boards in Brooklyn. So before you leave, I'll get to you or get to me so you can get these lists. And we also have a cover letter that has Gregory's phone number he helpfully provided. So feel free to call Gregory or any of us. Thank you. I also have them for the council districts as well. Lists.
Okay. With that, I would ask you to join us in thanking our panel for their presentation and their work.
Thank you. Thanks for not falling asleep.
We will certainly follow up if there are any additional questions that come up in future meetings or deliberations going on. Okay. At this time, we have nothing designated under other business, but do any members have any items that they would like to bring forward at this time? Seeing and hearing none. Okay, there's been a motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning? All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, with that, we are now adjourned for our December meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 6th. We look forward to seeing you at that time. As a reminder, if you have not submitted an updated designee form, please do so to ensure that your designee from your board or member is able to attend and vote on your behalf. Sorry.
All of the meeting is adjourned. All chair people, I think I'm seeing you tomorrow, right? Meeting with the borough president. Workshop is not a formal meeting. Please feel free to bring along another member of your board. Could be one of your executive committee members or any other member of your board. Not your DM, just a board member. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, for some of you, I won't see you again until 2026 arrives. So until then, be well, stay safe, and enjoy.